Welcome everyone to our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of March 25th. Welcome everyone. Might as well go ahead and get started with our approval of minutes from our previous meeting. If you've had time to review notes made, if there's any changes or amendments that you would like to see happen or suggest, or would welcome the motion for approval, please.
Make a motion to approve the minutes in February's meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Go ahead and roll call it. Megan, please.
Trevor Brandt.
Aye.
Adam Brown.
Aye.
Alexi Pavlov. Bradley Goldberg. Chad Dickinson. Steve Renfro. Susan Daniel. Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
And Lacey Cole.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have no scheduled visitors or guests this evening or an unfinished business either. So we'll move directly into our new business. Letter A, first up on the agenda is the zoning amendment 24-0002. Property owner is MLM Enterprises LLC. Property location 1601 North State Highway NN. Existing zoning is C2 General Commercial District. Requested zoning is GMU General Mixed Use District. Mr. Smith.
Yes, and just to clarify for the commission, as we get started, this item on the agenda and the following item are related to the same. There are two applications on the agenda because there's two separate parcels. So for the most part, everything is the same from these two applications. The request is to rezone the existing parcel from C3 General Commercial to GMU General Mixed Use. The property is currently vacant at this time. There is a transportation overlay district that does affect this property at the time of development along the highway NN corridor. The property can be serviced and it currently has water and sewer service near the property boundaries. Any additional development or extension of those would be the responsibility of the developer. There's also a discussion in the staff report you'll see that talks about firefighting services. Once we have a better handle on what the fire or the water requirements will be if development is pursued, then we can better address that. But there is capacity to service this property. Surrounding zoning to the north is agriculture in the county. To the east, you'll see some commercial and residential in the city and agriculture in the county as well. To the south is the mobile home district that was an older retired zoning district that we have in place. And then to the west is owned commercial as well. The comprehensive plan did recommend the future land use as commercial based on the existing zoning. In evaluating this request for rezoning, it does conform to the comprehensive plan and the surrounding zoning district for future development. Based on the staff report and findings, it was determined that all requirements have been met for the approval of the zoning application. The applicant is here in the audience and include additional information for the zoning request.
Thank you, Cameron. And speaking of that, is there someone, either the applicant or a representative of such, want to speak to the commission towards this application? If you would, submit your name and address, please, for record.
My name's Eric Peel, 25 East Philadelphia Street, Unit 10, York, Pennsylvania.
Chris Jackson, owner of Sharpline, address is 1243 Whitewood Way, Westchester, Pennsylvania. You guys want to take a look? Or do you want me to begin?
You go ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Once again, Chris Jackson, the owner of Sharpline. Eric is the head of construction for Sharpline. He's going to go into more of the particulars But I just want to tell you a little bit about ourselves. We currently do own in the greater Springfield area. We own Megan Lane Apartments in Willard and Logan Heights Apartments in Rogersville, which is 144 units. And we just recently purchased Soel Apartments, which is a 40-unit complex right in the center of Springfield. These tend to lean towards more higher end apartments. We do self-manage also, which means that we control the property management aspect of this so that we ensure the screening of residences according to our standards and income requirements, as well as background checks, so that we ensure the safety of our communities. The vision for this project is more of a town center feel with a retail component. There is a concentration of townhomes that are going to be laid out in 3-bed, 2-bath with garages. That's going to command a higher rent. So it would mean higher income standards have to be achieved. And we do feel that this is a good product for the market because in today's market with higher interest rates and higher lending standards to put bigger down payments on, it is hard for people to buy homes right now. So to stay in the community, this is a great option to stay and be able to attend the wonderful Ozark High School. I'm going to let Erica now speak to the particulars.
Okay. Like Mr. Smith opened, it's 2 parcels for the zoning amendment. Currently, the land is zoned C2. Proposed zoning change would be the general mixed use. Property situated along Highway NN and West Bluff Street. I'll walk you through the presentation. The second page is the sketch plan. And that shows along fronting West Bluff Drive would be the mixed-use building with 3 stories of residential on top of first floor commercial, and then 72 townhomes behind that. The existing curb cut on 9th or Highway NN, we're actually proposing to relocate that away from the West Bluff Drive intersection. And when you're looking at that concept plan, our goal is to move the mixed-use building to front right along Bluff Drive. So you'd have the cartway, the sidewalk, and then the building with the parking behind it, which I'm pretty sure is commensurate with the zoning. Then part of that design too is having walking trails, green space, landscape buffering. And then flipping to the next page, there's a series of photos. This is what it could look like. These are built products. So that's a mixed use building. In the front of the photograph, that's what we're envisioning to front Bluff Street. And then the townhomes behind that. Next photo is another representation of a mixed-use building with townhomes behind it, general mixed-use developments. Third photo, again, another variation of that same concept. First floor commercial with residential above it. Photo after that is the townhome concept that we're envisioning. 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath garage units. And then after that is a traffic study. So just starting from the top, working down, the proposed improvements would be 8,400 square feet of commercial, 48 apartments and 72 townhomes. According to the Institute of Traffic Engineers, the parking demand would be 3.96 spaces per 1,000 square feet of commercial. So that works out to about 33 parking spaces for the commercial use. And the ITE has different subgroups of land uses. This one would be 221. It's low to mid-rise suburban residential. And that would be 1.23 spaces per dwelling unit. So total recommended parking, according to the Institute of Traffic Engineers, is 181 spaces. we're proposing 204 spaces. Below that is the vehicle trip generation per dwelling unit. So average rate for a weekday is 5.44 vehicle trips. And then they boil it down into peak demand. So you'd have a peak demand between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and also 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So these numbers here represent the variable for those equations. 0.36 would be the vehicle trips in the morning, 0.44 would be vehicle trips in the afternoon. So table 1 is the trip generation data. So essentially, this has the directional splits of an average weekday would be 50% in, 50% out. During the peak hour in the morning, it would be 26% entering, 74% exiting. And then the inverse of that for the peak hour in the afternoon, more people coming home than leaving. Table 2 shows the trip generation summary. So based on the shopping center use, the mixed use along with the apartments, the average weekday trips would be 652. 50-50 would be 326 in and out. And then the peak flow for the morning would be 41 total and 50 for the afternoon. So if you flip to the next page, these are from MoDOT, the traffic daily volume for Highway NN. And the top shows northbound and the bottom shows southbound. So without boring you with all the data, basically total trips north and south is 7,321. And then peak hour in the morning would be 1,070. And the volume peaked out in the afternoon would be 669. So if you go back to the page we were just on and then look at the information from MoDOT, the percentage impact that this development would have, total trips would only increase by 9%. Peak flow in the morning would only increase by 4%, and peak flow in the afternoon would only increase by 7%. So it's de minimis. Beyond that, in the presentation, these are all the various uses, land uses defined by the Institute of Traffic Engineers. So I highlighted use 221, low mid-rise apartment, suburban. And that shows you the 1.23 parking spaces. So these tables now just merely speak to how many parking spaces you need for a development. For the shopping center, we use the most stringent shopping center code that's on the next page. It's highlighted shopping center 820. That's in December on Fridays. So around the holidays, that's going to be the most volume for parking. And it's 3.96 spaces per 1,000 square feet. So that's how we derived those earlier tables that we showed you in the presentation. And then the last couple pages, these are straight from the Institute of Traffic Engineers. So this goes through the background on the parking demand. The next page, these talk about the vehicle trips. So this is the actual empirical data from the studies they did over 27 communities, 205 dwelling units. And they give you all the graphs, the mean average, and those are those variables from earlier, the 0.36 and the 0.44. So sorry to bore you with that, but that's the data.
Anything else you want to offer, or we'll just, if not, we'll call you back up for questions if necessary. Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move, of course, open it up to any public comments, but anyone would like to make, remembering tonight, all we're talking about is zoning. This is great information, but this all, correct me if I'm wrong, this all has to go through the city process of approvals, and if you'd like to make a comment on that before we move forward.
I just was going to clarify, you're correct, it is a zoning application. They provide additional information that wasn't required as a part of staff report and presenting the case, but no, this is great information to have and helps kind of show and sell the story to you, I guess, for the commission to have a vision what might to come.
But again, this all has to go through the proper channels, approval and everything through Staff City, but I will go ahead and open it up to the public. Yes, ma'am.
Jeannie McFall, 1324 East Warren Avenue, Ozark. I just had a question. Is there any zoning that has been approved of this district yet? I know it was only enacted in 2021.
Do you want me to get through that?
We've asked you since I'm from
Yeah.
the water.
There has not been one that's been approved at this time. This will be the first one that we've had come through for consideration.
Okay. And then the other question is, on the comprehensive plan, the only zoning map that I've been able to find is one that's dated 2022 on your website. Do you have a new one that updates the different areas that allows for this zoning?
Yeah.
So that has came up in the past when we were working with our GIS department to update the zoning map. I've also clarified this in the past, that the mixed use reference in the conference plan is not related whatsoever on the general mixed use ordinance. That the conference plan was done earlier before this ordinance was in place with Green Dove. And that mixed use in the conference plan was just to provide options for different considerations, whether it be commercial, industrial, residential, depending on development trends and what the surrounding uses are. But again, the mixed use zoning noted reference in the conference plan is not a specific zoning district. It was just allow us to consider different zoning districts. The general mixed use ordinance that's in place now was drafted after the adoption of the conference plan.
And the comprehensive plan would have been in 2019?
Conference plan was drafted in 2018, adopted in February 2019.
Okay. And just one other question, from C2 to general mixed use allows for less setbacks than C2, correct?
I don't know the specific dimensions off my head, but there are some considerations in general mixed use about setback requirements, additional amenity requirements, height, discussions about the taller you go at a certain height, the more setback you have on a property.
And is there any requirement, can it all be residential? Or does a portion of it have to be commercial?
The general mixed use allows for multiple uses. It can all be residential and mixed or multifamily. It doesn't allow for just specific single family. The only single family that's allowed is it's on the upper floor, for instance, like around the square. We have single family residents above commercial businesses, but the general mixed use, the intent is to provide a variety of mixed uses in that or in that development.
I know they didn't appeal to this, but would this allow for tiny homes development in this zoning?
No, it does not allow for tiny homes. We don't even consider tiny homes our building codes at this point because we haven't adopted the tiny home building codes.
And probably just one other question, the little sliver, which is it the next one coming up?
Yes.
Can they do a 0 lot line and combine those two if they needed to?
Probably let the applicant clarify, but my guess is they're separate parcels at this point. That's why there's two applications. I suspect when we go to develop, they'll do a lot combination.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hate standing here in more than anybody else, I think. My name is
Hold on
Wesley.
just a minute. Is that mic on? I don't see a,
Hello,
okay, sorry, I
Hear
didn't
me?
see the light. Go ahead.
my name is Wesley Coos. I live at 1805 Cumberland Drive in Ozark, right above the high school. I have experience with traffic in that area. And I don't, promises made and promises kept, what these guys are saying as far as zoning or the traffic is concerned. I can tell you every morning when I go to work, I'm stuck in traffic at NN where Come and Go is. Or if I take the other route around the school, I'm still stuck in traffic. So what is that gonna do for the people that paid good money to buy houses up here? Okay, I'm not for it. And I want everybody to know about it.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Micah, live 2610 West Heritage. So I'm on the other side of the highway. But I have a couple of things. One, I have a daughter who goes to Ozark High School, and you all know the Ozark Innovation Center opened up a couple of years ago. And as the gentleman mentioned, currently you have students that drive from the high school, go all the way down to NN just to come on down towards Come and Go, come on up Jackson to come on over there to get to the Innovation Center. So they're stuck in traffic, is like he's mentioning also. And then you also have them coming back the other way too, because there's no quick way. You also have the buses going around there. So if you bring in another 200, 300 people into an area, we already have a problem on down where we used to live at on CC, where we had another 480 units over there, which is growing to another 400 more units, if you're aware of that. We used to live back over there, and traffic over there is horrendous. I know there was a plan somewhere to help alleviate some of that. I understand the numbers, 7%, 9%, 10%. I go through there every single morning, and I've gone from waiting for 5 minutes up to almost 15 minutes trying to get to a red light that changes green to red to green to red. And you have over 40, 50, 60 people trying to get within 15-minute span, and it doesn't work. You also have North 20 Apartments, which the steel company I work for is helping build that place. It's a blight and an eyesore off of 65. And I know apartments are necessary. I know housing is necessary, but isn't there a better place to put it? You also have a church right there, which I'm a member of, which is another reason why my wife and I came down here, the Catholic Church right there, and opening all that. And then you also have Johnny Morris's group, isn't he putting a bunch of cabins over there right across the street? So you have all the people that's coming into the mill, which has just been redone. And then you have all the cabins that are going to be built in that little area from hopefully get more people coming in, tourist area. You have the high school problem of people driving around there that you want to zone something to get to be commercial and residential. And then you have the problems we already have with you have to build up the school districts already in different areas. I don't see where this is doing anything good for Ozark. We've only been a member of here for 10 years. I'm retired military, served 30 years. We decided to settle in the Ozarks mainly because of my in-laws, but we loved it. We called it home for 10 years, and I love the community. But I hate to see a community destroy itself because of overpopulating itself. Then all of a sudden you become like a great big city. My parents live in San Antonio. San Antonio used to be a quaint little city, and they decided to get too big, and they don't know how to control their own traffic. And now they're building highways on top of highways on top of highways. And Ozark is tiny, where Missouri's tiny compared to the bigger cities. And you're looking at, I know it's a small community, and you're looking at small little pieces to build into it. But eventually you're going to overrun your own population. You're going to overrun your own traffic, and it's not going to make anything good. You're actually going to make it worse for the population to live here. So that's all I had to say. Take care of the kids, the high schoolers. They need a way to get around there. And if you open that up for more traffic, the students it's a pain in the butt to get from the high school to the Innovation Center, the way the traffic is right now. And a lot of the kids drive from the high school to the Innovation Center. If you open that up to commercial residential, you put more people over there, you're endangering the children, the kids that are going to be driving through there. Some of them just learned how to drive. And if I know I have a teenagers learning how to drive, I'm sure every single one of you have teenagers that are learning, either have not learned how to drive or getting ready to learn how to drive. And it's scary. And you're going to have them drive through an area and all of a sudden hit somebody else's car that we don't know about or something. It's a scary thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty started. Anyone else?
My name is April Micah, Paul's my husband, and we live on Heritage Drive over by OTC. So the other thing that I just want to mention is Bluff Drive doesn't go anywhere except the high school, really. So all the traffic will be on NN. And we've talked about heading south towards Jackson. It's a nightmare. Jackson's one of the worst, that stretch. You got a traffic light every block. Takes you as long to go from South Street from NN to the highway as it does to get across town and other places. But if you go north, it's not any better. You're just going past another elementary school, and these are 2-lane roads. And people are going to be in a hurry to get to work. They'll be frustrated that they can't go south. They're going to end up going north, be stuck in that 35-mile-an-hour zone. There's just no good way in and out of that parcel of land. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else? What we want? Okay, I see no movement, so we'll go ahead and close our public portion of this and open it up to the commission for questions or comments. If you have a question or comment.
Did they need to give their formal address rather than just saying a little heritage? Right, I didn't know. Just for the two, a couple, thank you for your service. So I know we got yours in Cumberland, but they just said they live on Heritage Drive, but did we need their formal specific address? I wasn't sure. Thinking. Okay, so I just
Okay, and remembering to the commission, we're looking at the zoning request on the amendment at this time. Any approvals or reactions by the city on traffic or sewer or water runoff, water would be determined at a later time as the staff would go through the documents that were not really officially submitted, just given to us for our reading pleasure this evening. So I'll open it up to the commission.
question for staff. With the general mixed use, that would allow for both multifamily and single family, correct? You mentioned earlier. It does allow for both multifamily and single family, but in this case, they're asking for multifamily. Well, I guess they're not asking, but based on the plan, multifamily and commercial. But yes, general mixed use ordinance does allow for land development. Okay, and I'm not familiar with anywhere else besides downtown, but is there anywhere else where, or in Ozark in the ordinance, townhomes, which are typically for sale, not for rent, is there any distinction between multifamily when it comes to like multifamily building versus multifamily units that are sold? Like an apartment complex versus a townhome. Do you have anything that differentiates that? No, those are all based on traditional zoning, which would be either R3 for townhomes or R4 for apartments. So this is a fairly new ordinance that allows for those in there. And just to clarify, in the downtown area, a lot of those properties are zoned C4, which is the commercial zoning that does allow for residential, single family, and multifamily. Sure, but not necessarily all of those in one parcel. Right. Except for around the square, you see that. Right. And a lot of office where they can choose to do just a single family house, multifamily house, or commercial. And according to, because we're not looking at it, we have the general mixed use. C2 with currently in, is there any parking or building size requirements of C2? Not necessarily on building size, but based on the specific use of our parking ordinances. They made reference to parking criteria based on the MoDOT or possibly AASHTO, but we do have zoning ordinances that will have to run through calculations to confirm that they're meeting minimum parking. Sure. But I guess I'm asking because difference between C2 and the general mixed use as far as parking and traffic, I wouldn't see that a disparity between the two. Yeah, no, so
when we look at a general mixed use, we'll look at the parking requirement for the townhome component, parking requirement for the retail component.
Right.
But traffic, that's just going to be based on kind of the chart they provide in the traffic engineers in middle. They'll get a calculation for number of units for residential,
Right.
number of square footage for commercial. And
But as far as, you know, the lot is the size of this, if it's commercial, it's gonna be allowed a certain number of cars, number of parking. If it's gonna be general mixed use, it'll be the same thing. It's not like the lot will get magically bigger or smaller if, you know, for parking. It's, you know,
Anyone else? Yes, sir, Chad.
Got a question and then maybe a couple comments. First, questions for staff. I participated in those corridor studies that the city had a month or so ago. And I guess, and I can't remember, but how does this fit or correlate with that corridor study as far as switching possibly from the C2 to the mixed use?
At this time, the study is still in the works. We did get a set of deliverables of draft documents last week. But nothing's been determined. So at this time, the corridor study will have a relevance to this. However, those corridors are being looked at more geared toward a higher density residential and commercial uses along those corridors. Since there are state routes, highway routes that are meant to move a lot more traffic. But at this time, the base of its own request wouldn't have any bearing on the corridor study.
Okay, just was curious. Thank you. And I'll just kind of build on what Adam said. I mean, I think the difference between a C2, you know, traffic generation to the general mixed use, I don't think there's a large difference in that the traffic being generated by either one of those. And I mean, the lot to the west, which is 2.5 times as large as the one we're discussing tonight, is already zoned C2, property across the street C2. So I think this is a commercial corridor that's going to develop, and we just need to do it in an appropriate manner. And I guess, and I know we're not evaluating this, and I think this is good information. One thing that jumps out at me in the 90 seconds I've had to look at it is the traffic analysis does a good job in analyzing the parking needs for both the shopping center and the residential use. But as far as trip generation numbers, it only speaks specifically to the apartments, and it uses the trip gen numbers from ITE for trip generation. There's no mention of the mixed use component. So at 8,400 square feet, will have to be, added in and included in the traffic impact analysis when that's completed at a later date. And then my last comment, if there are issues with traffic flow on NN and Jackson, I encourage you to reach out to MoDOT. They're both owned and controlled and maintained by the Missouri DOT. Maybe they can look at signifying and make some adjustments to improve that traffic flow. I live off NN just north of here, so I understand the concerns. But if there's specific issues, you can contact them. 888 ask MoDOT. They'll be happy to come down to look at the signal operation. So with that, I mean, I think the switch from C2 to mixed use seems reasonable, and I plan to support it.
Thank you, Chad. Anyone else? Want everybody to get a chance. Hadley, go ahead.
We'll just say you're teaching here in the high school. I know the gentleman mentioned specific issues with traveling back and forth to the OST. The timing with this being townhomes and kind of looking at, you guys broke down the times. I feel like that really, we look at the big strike through that, 9 a.m. to 9:15 time in corridor. You mentioned 7 to 9. I think that's kind of past that wave. Then you have that 11:15 to 11:30 time. And then you have like that 1 to 1:15 time. So those 3 midday times, which are just crazy if you go on Jackson, I don't think there'll be as much of a piece there. I mean, yes, that's a concern, but the bigger piece is that we have some fantastic educators in other districts that will not come to Ozark because we don't have townhomes. They can't afford our houses. They don't want to rent an apartment, and they like to townhouse, like they have a kid and things like that. So yes, I know it brings traffic, and the board knows that I've been very adamant about specific apartment complexes and things like that coming to the high school. We had that one right by the junior high, by the tennis courts, but I mean, it's frustrating to me when I call the teacher in Aurora that's an amazing teacher, and he said, look, I think to Ozark, but there's no place for me to live. So yes, I know it brings traffic, things like that. And I know the audience may not have been here at some of the other proposals that I've pretty much shot down a lot of them, but I feel like that townhome piece is a huge piece missing. So, I think some of the concerns I had, I know Chad and Adam kind of touched on it, but I think we desperately need townhomes here. I think townhomes are something they have not addressed at CC. I think CC, they put those apartments in. The thing across the highway, that's a different piece. I wasn't on the council when that, on the committee when that came through, but like, I know that we need to grow and we need to grow right. You know, I appreciate you guys bringing something with townhomes, because I think that's a big hole that we don't have in the Ozark here.
Thank you. Everybody gets a turn and they say, no, you're good. Alexi. Did you want to say anything? Kate? Lacey? Everything? Mr. Branch, how are you? How are you? You're good? Okay. Now I think we're at a point of, any questions come up or we're ready for a motion?
Did you get a chance to touch that? Did you have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve zoning amendment 24-002 based on council recommendation.
You gonna have a
Staff
second?
recommendation.
Did you get that second, Liam? Just roll call when you get a minute.
Chad Dickerson. Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
Susan Daniel. Pete Renfro. Calvin Goldberg. Lacy Colbert. Trevor Branch. Alexi Pavlow. Adam Rick.
Thank you. And as Cameron mentioned, letter B, which is an extension of it's a little piece that's still sitting there undone, so zoning amendment 24-0003. Property owner MLN Enterprises LLC, property location 1701 North State Highway NN. Existing zoning C2 General Commercial District. Requested zoning is GMU General Mixed Use District. Cameron, you want to comment again on anything or just let it ride?
Just to clarify, it is this little triangular sliver just along highway and in, it is same information as the previous application, so, be happy to answer any additional questions, but the information is pretty much the same, as discussed.
Thank you. Representatives want to add anything to it, or we keep going? All right. Open this back up again as we do with, to the public for any new or additional comments based upon the additional piece that we're looking at here of the same property, but the smaller piece. Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public portion, open it up to commission for anything that's come to mind, and we'll move direct to motion.
I make a motion to recommend approval of zoning amendment 24-0003 as presented in the report and steps recommendations.
When you're ready, Megan, go ahead.
Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
Adam Brown. Alexi Pavlow. Chad Dickerson. Pete Renfro. Trevor Branch. Calvin Goldberg. Susan Daniel. Lacy Colbert.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then moving on to letter C, which is the amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, chapter 405, zoning regulations by enacting one new section, 405.080, neighborhood meetings. Cameron, the floor is yours.
Yes, following the last meeting, staff has went back and made some changes in the ordinance, and I'll go through those with you. We did get feedback, after the meeting, not a lot, but we've taken all those comments in place and put those into the ordinance. So just kind of beginning on the first page, so we require any annexations, maybe vacation of the public right of way they're not required to have a neighborhood meeting. And then we added an exception regarding single family. The neighborhood meeting is not required if the single family zoning application is less than 1 acre parcel. We consider those that way you don't have just a singular lot need to come through. In case you've seen in the past where there's just they're annexing and zoning in the city to tap the sanitary sewer. It's already developed. Or we got some smaller lots downtown that has seen some rezoning applications in the past. They also the 1 acre kind of set it up where administrative approval of minor subdivisions, we can split up to 3 lots administratively. Anything beyond that has to come through as a major subdivision. That 1 acre kind of captures where they never qualify for a major subdivision. So that's why we've added that exception in there to limit some of the single family applications. The intent is to capture larger applications that'll be the subdivision process. And then moving on forward in the ordinance, that I believe is it in the ordinance. And then moving to the next sections, kind of the supporting documents. Again, we removed the annexation of vacation public right of way. There was discussions about the term negotiate. We removed that from the ordinance, and basically we just have clarified, gives the developer the opportunity to answer questions and respond to concerns from the neighborhood. We stricken out the language about attempt to resolve any issues. We didn't want to put that on the burden of the developer to try to get those resolved at that neighborhood meeting. The hope is they will resolve some of those. There may be some that still comes to the commission board. So we've updated that language. And then moving on forward, there was concern that were brought up about the neighborhood meeting summaries. Basically, we've stricken out some language that talks about the verbal comments and written comments. Basically, we're just asking the applicant to just list the items that were discussed. So that would create a dialogue at the public meetings, not necessarily the details of those discussions and the results, but maybe just some bullet point items. We discussed stormwater, we discussed traffic or intentions, things like that, and not having them being required to give a full dialogue. So reducing that document as well. Again, the revision remove annexations and the vacation public right of ways. Made reference to discussing kind of the intent of their application, and then answer any questions and not get into the negotiate. I believe same revisions on the next supporting document. With that, we're happy to answer any questions. That highlights the changes from the last.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go ahead and open it up to the public for comments. Floor is open. Whoever would like to speak to this request for ordinance adjustment.
I have one clarification on the new form. Jeannie Metfall, 1324 East Warren Avenue. On the 1 acre or less, does that also pertain to conditional use permits if it's on 1 acre or less?
Yeah, in that case, it would be a conditional use permit, so it would be required to have that. Yeah, they are not exempt as a conditional use permit. They're exempt only if they're requesting a zoning of single family. Those will be coming before the commission board for a conditional use permit. That was required in every meeting, regardless of what the property is by zoning. And I'm seeing here, I think we actually stricken CO on conditional use, so I had to fix that little scribbles here on that page and kind of got carried away.
I know that when people have attended your meetings here, the two concerns they have is traffic and water retention a lot of times. This isn't even addressed in this, because at the time that they're doing these neighborhood meetings, they're not required to have that. A good example would be the C2 that was annexed up on 65 and NN and Garten. That was just a vacant piece of land with no plan. So what is there to show somebody at a neighborhood meeting? If it's a developer that has a drawing, like these gentlemen had a presentation tonight, that makes sense to me to have a neighborhood meeting. But for somebody just to come in because it's their farmland, they want to annex it and sell it and get a zoning on it that would work for that use, that's very difficult to do a neighborhood meeting with a presentation. And I've been to the MoDOT meetings, there's maps, they're very helpful, but I get told different things depending on who's standing by that map. They don't tell you the same thing 2 times in a row. So is this going to be a problem with your neighborhood meetings? It just needs to have a drawing and a plan for it to be beneficial for the neighborhood meeting to be in place. And the idea that it can only happen between 4 and 6:30. That may not be ideal for some neighborhoods or where the plan is. It may need to be on a Saturday instead of an evening. So there's a lot of things that I think you just need to look at totally and think about using this plan. I know Show Me Christian County has some concerns about this, about businesses coming to town because of it.
Anyone else? No, we'll close the public portion and open it up to commissioners for questions, comments. Remembering last meeting we tabled for adjustments and revisions. Am I saying that right, Kim?
Yeah, it was tabled for us to make amendments and bring back to the commission.
So we don't have to be afraid if it's what the majority of us feel we need to do. You don't want to turn that away, but open it up, comments and questions.
I just wanted a clarification from staff. So the neighborhood meeting before zoning changes and also planning unit developments, for example, zoning, like if you do have land, it would be rezoned, like if there's a development, there's a plat map, like it would be like, let's say we do have a piece of farmland. It does want to be changed from agricultural to R2. That would be a meeting, and then there'll be another meeting for a zoning of the plat, well, like all the individual lots, like said development. No,
I'm saying those are two separate things.
Yeah, those are two separate things. So you'll have a zoning meeting for a zoning request. The PUD is the same thing as a zoning request. So you'll either have a residential zoning request or a PUD zoning request. That doesn't mean that someone might want to zone the land to say residential to sell. Another applicant would come in with maybe a PUD. But a plat is not part of this requirement, nor do plats, and the reason they're excluded is because they don't require a public notification to bring a plat. These items that are on here is what's required to have a public mailing notification sent out to the neighboring property.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yes, sir. You're just waiting to hit that up. So,
I guess without, I want to thank the staff for taking the time to look at our comments and incorporate them into the document you guys, and appreciate it. You know, I think this is a step in the right direction. This is very similar to neighboring communities and what's required there. You know, at the time of zoning, a lot of times you don't have an idea of what you plan to do there. You're simply rezoning it, say from ag to commercial or whatever, and you haven't found, you know, your investor, you don't have a plan, you know, but you know, so I think that's a common thing for the planned unit development. Correct me if I'm wrong, that does require a site plan. So if that type of rezoning, there would be a site plan to be reviewed by the neighborhood. But at least there's an opportunity for the neighbors to talk with the developer, you know, ask questions, see what the intended plan is. I think majority of these, there is no formal presentation. It's more of an open house, come and go. You ask the developer and the owner questions and concerns and so forth, and have time. So, you know, again, I think this is a step in the right direction. I think the time is appropriate. I mean, MoDOT was mentioned. That's when MoDOT has their public meetings. Also, this is a business type thing in my mind. If you're going to go to a business, you're going to go there during business hours, Monday through Friday. You're not going to, you know, if it's your doctor, they're not going to necessarily on Saturday. So, you know, if it's important, I think citizens or neighbors would make every effort to get there. I think a lot of times they can submit comments directly to the city that could be incorporated into a report and so forth. So, I think this is a good step. I think it's needed, and you know, I think we should move forward with it.
thank you, Chad. Anyone else? Call your name. If you don't speak up, make you tell me no. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit your button. There you go.
Yeah, I agree with what was said already. I think it also gives a chance for the neighbors and the developer to, even like if it's just zoning, to go through the differences and see, like even today it was brought up, like if traffic is concerned, what's the vehicle difference between the two zoning, what can be built, and so they can take that time to explain everything instead of a lot of people being confused here and asking what, well, is it going to be, you know, whatever, a gas station, and nobody really knows. But during those meetings, they can really go through and explain the difference between zoning. Well, in this one, you can only do this, this type of building, this zoning, you can go this. And so I think that will help the planning and zoning meetings to go through a little bit better.
Thanks, sir. Starting the other end, Trevor, how about you? Anything, you're good? Lacey? Pete, how about you? You're good. I knew that. You're talking, man.
Yeah, I don't recall, I thought we talked about this, whether the 500-foot number was a good, if it was too large, if that should be adjusted to something that, you know, is it 180 or 185?
Yeah, you're correct. We didn't talk about, but I'm gonna take a clear direction. 185 is what's required by statute and it's in our ordinances.
Right.
We follow the 500 similar to the example we got from Springfield, where it captures a bigger audience than our normal publication would. So that's why the 500 was proposed. Again, just to give a better opportunity for the neighbors to get a, you know, notification.
Right.
I'm not in this discussion on it, but I feel like I agree that we need to get, you know, people of concern, you know, involved. But I do think 500 feet, it could, you know, depending on where it's at, it could be 3 people, it could be 100. And, you know, I'm not married to the 500 idea, but you know, I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I would make a motion, but I don't want to. I'm thinking of changing that number. But
Thank you. Go ahead. Stan.
I guess just to comment, I'm supportive of something less than 500. My opinion is I think it should be at least a minimum of 300. You know, I would be open to if someone, if the commission wanted to make a motion with the requested revision. I'm not sure how we would word that, but I think we need at least 300 feet. I think we need to get a good. You're right. It depends on how dense the properties around it. If you're in the middle of an agricultural, maybe a handful of people, but if you're, you know, in a really densely populated area, it's gonna be quite a few. So I would support 300 feet as a revised number.
Go ahead.
Well, the other question I had was, the notice of the meeting shall be sent to one, you know, the owner of the property. Let's say we do have, it affects a lot of properties that, you know, maybe have tenants that wouldn't know about what's happening around them. You know, the owner might, but a current resident might not. Just trying to think of the effects that could have. I obviously, you know, like as a city, we're looking at citizens who are investing time in our area, but just noticing, just thinking of anything that could backfire, especially if it's an area with a high concentrated area of current citizens that may not be property owners.
So are you directing that toward the renters?
Yes.
It would be mailed to the owner of record in the city information.
Yes.
Data bank, I assume.
It would be based on, generally it comes from the assessor map, showing the ownership, county assessor's map. Yes, it would only be mailed to the owner. So is our 185 feet foot mailings that we generally do. That the benefit of the 185 is there's also generally public posting on the property or in the paper. And keep in mind, this is just the kind of really courtesy type meeting. There will still be the public meetings come through. If someone didn't get that, they would still see the sign posted. Maybe they can hear it through the other neighbor and still could come to the official public meetings. But again, the 185 is only mailed to the registered owner, not all the renters on the portion.
Sorry, I make the argument out of kind of being devil's advocate of you that, let's say, you know, I own the property and John lives in the property. It's not fair as me as the owner not to get that, you know, like I think it's, you know, so I think that, I think, I know we said we pulled this from Springfield and I know Chad mentioned 300 feet, but I just feel like for a lot of the changes, I think I've been on the board now for like 3 years. And it doesn't seem like a lot of our changes are happening in the middle of stuff. So I like the idea of having 500 a little bit more. I think kind of what this does is I think for our benefit, one of the things that we push for this is that we want them to be able to, before they come and then this be the first time that they have an opportunity to communicate their concerns. I like the idea of having a little bit broader reach and saying, hey, let them do that neighborhood meeting. Because so many times, and I want everyone to have the chance to talk, but there's been times, where we've sat here for 3 hours and it's just their first chance to get me information. So I mean, I understand where, yeah, if there's something where you pop it in the middle of, where there's tons of residential, and yes, that's gonna be a bigger piece, but I think most of those are more densely populated, and a lot of our things that have come here in those more densely populated areas. So I'd rather be conservative, and I like the idea of going with the 500, so their first time addressing concerns is not here, and that's just my opinion.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I agree.
Thank you. You're the one that had sponsors, and we got, we got. I agree. Well, I'll comment that I was pleased, and I get the guys' point, I was pleased to see the 500. Because it's gonna capture, I think anything over that would have been beyond the realm of overkill, it is. But I really like that, that portion of it. So for lack of better terms, I would like to make a motion to approve the adding of section 405.0 neighborhood meetings. Do I have a second? Roll call, Megan, if you would, please.
Adam Brown.
Aye.
Lacy Culver. Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
Trevor Brand. Pete Renfro. Alexi Pavlov. Susan Daniels. Chad Dickinson. Howard Wilbur. Okay.
Very good, very good. Thank you everyone for that. We have, that's always important, together towards the end of our meeting, we have discussion. I'll open it first of all to the commission for any comments you would like to make this evening. Open the vote.
I just encourage you guys, I know the school district's really trying to do into the community, trying to get more community members involved. So tomorrow night, 5:30 is at the Innovation Center. There's a curriculum conversation we're really going on. The community to kind of come and kind of see what we do knows are so many times you hear different things, this critical race theory and some of this stuff, and schools have to get a bad rap, but a lot of that stuff Ozark doesn't do. It's just the news kind of glamorized it. So definitely, if you don't like Ozark schools, please like it. Just kind of see, because I know the school district, we're trying to kind of do, besides the school board meeting, which that's always a key thing, we're really trying to do some other pieces to welcome the community and get community input. Our long range planning was pushed off due to snow days and things like that. So our final long range planning meeting, don't have the date yet. I want to say it's April something. It's also Tuesday, but if you like the Ozark Schools website, definitely check that out. And obviously, the more the better. We'd love to get just different feedback from community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Anyone else? I'm gonna make it rain, Robin. Adam. Chad. Yes, yes. Glad to have her experience. Good. You're good, I see. Hey. Susan. Lexi. Heather, you already had your time. Staff, Cameron, anything from you, sir?
Yes, staff had a great meeting with the board meeting last Thursday and on the legislative meeting to talk about subdivision ordinance, rental inspections and contractor license. Very positive feedback. So staff hopes to have a draft to the commission, probably for just discussion next April or the next meeting in April, in regards to subdivision regulation changes and then rental inspections. The contractor license, I'm not sure if it needs to come to the commission or not. I'll have to look into that. But a direction for staff to pursue drafting some regulations on those in place. I also think it's time for us to have some rental inspection contract license in place. As we've been doing research, it's surprising even though Ozark is the only community that doesn't have anything in place. Even a lot of the smaller communities around have some form of regulation. And on the staff side, we do get constant, complaints, if you will, from citizens that we don't have such a thing in place. So, seem like for that maybe at the next meeting.
Megan. Oh,
Yeah, you mentioned rentals. I don't think the city does. Does the city have short-term rental license requirement? And if not, are you planning to develop it?
No, we don't have that in place. However, what we're identifying with this rental inspection requirement is a registration from a property owner and a tenant. At this time, we don't plan to pursue a short-term rental ordinance, but we're hoping this will capture a lot of the information we do need on a regular basis for contact, whether it's just for emergency services, have a contact, or through code compliance.
Good question. Megan, it's your turn. You got a lot, I can tell you. No, you're all right? We're good? Well, that leaves just one thing, my friends. There's one, second, and they all said. Thank you.